Welcome to India, Mr.
Thank
Spielberg, and thank you for being with us today. Obviously, this isn't your very first visit to India, is it?
No, I've been here several times before, but it's been 30 years since I've been back to India. I was here, the last time was in 1983.
Were you making films then?
Yes, Temple of Doom, and I was here on my own, backpacking through the country.
Where did you go?
But everywhere.
Really?
Yes, Benares, Calcutta, Delhi, Jodhpur, Jaipur, a lot of places. But I started here in 1977, and I shot a very small scene from my movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind in a very small town, about 3-hour drive outside of Bombay.
Oh.
And that was the... So
I
was here.
Very many people know that. What was it that impressed you most about India at that point of time, when you were backpacking?
I think that people were welcoming of a foreigner, that they would invite me to eat with them. They would invite me to stay with them. They didn't know who I was. It was after I had made Jaws, and after certainly Close Encounters came out. It was so great that nobody knew who I was. I remember that as being one of the happiest moments of my life. The relative anonymity of just traveling through India.
Is that something surprising for you, or is that something that isn't very prevalent in the United States of America?
No. There's no anonymity there. You know, you can be an actor in one television show that everybody watches, and that's the end of your privacy. It's over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Spielberg, you started off very early in your life. I believe as a child you once took an 8mm camera and made your first film with your mother being in the star cast.
Yes, I did.
What inspired you to do that?
Well, I think well, for one thing, the first time I picked up a movie camera was because I was wrecking my electric trains when I was about 12 years old. I was crashing the two trains into each other and making a complete mess, and sometimes the trains would break and my dad would have to take them back to the electric train store to get them fixed, and he told me if I ever broke my trains again, he would take the entire set away. And we had an 8mm Kodak movie camera. And I remember coming home from school one day and setting up a couple of shots, and I photographed the trains crashing. And luckily the trains didn't break, but I had it on film. I got one train going left to right. Then inside the camera, I stopped. I put the camera on the other train, keeping the screen direction right, the other train going right to left. And I set the camera down, shooting straight out at the track, and both trains came together and crashed. And then what I wound up doing was looking at that piece of film, 90 seconds of film, over and over and over again, and it satisfied my need for some reason to break things in those days. And in that sense, I discovered the power of cinema.
Right.
And I started making little movies after that.
Yes. Your first film was Duel.
Yes.
Very unusual topic, very unusual subject. A desire to do something different. But you have switched to working with actors. And
I always work with actors, but
they just don't happen to be a fish and a robot.
Exactly.
But even in the casting process, I've noticed that they've been very unusual. Tom Hanks as a soldier, for example. Why would you have thought that?
Well, Tom's a great leader. I mean, Tom has profound leadership abilities, and it comes through in a lot of his work on the screen. Yeah, he started as a comedian. He started doing a television show, called Bosom Buddies, where he was always dressed as a woman every day. And he started, doing jokes, and he started in comedy. But there was, in every comedy actor, there is a very serious dramatic actor. You really can't do great comedy unless you have a deep dramatic core. And Tom always had that, and Tom always had a penchant for drama. And as Tom matured, his films became more serious, and Tom and I became friends. I produced 3 movies that Tom was in as an actor, and we got to know each other really well. And I just thought Tom could do anything. He could be a politician, he could be the President of the United States, for that matter. And so it wasn't that far of a reach to imagine Tom playing Captain John Miller.
Right. Ever thought of directing a Bond film?
I tried to direct a Bond film, and Cubby Broccoli wouldn't hire me. You know, I went to Cubby, and I called him up on the phone, and I just said, I had done a couple of movies. I had just started out. I had actually done Jaws, and it was a big hit, and I thought, well, that'll convince him that I can direct a Bond picture. And I got him on the telephone, and I said, I really would love to do your next Bond picture. And he said, you're not experienced enough. You know, and he said, if we ever do one on the water, I'll call you. And so that was the end of that. And then a number of years later, after Close Encounters came out, you know, in Close Encounters, there's a 5-note sequence that the aliens send to us, and then we send those 5 notes back to the aliens. So Cubby was making Moonraker, and he wanted to use the 5-note sequence as a parody on Close Encounters in the Bond film. But he needed my permission. Thank God for the Directors Guild of America. They really protect us. They really do. So he called me, got me at the office, and he asked if he could use those 5 notes. And I immediately said yes, and then I said, do you have a slot open? I've made 2 huge hits, Jaws and Close Encounters. I got nominated for Oscars on both films. And he said, did you win? I said, no. He said, well, no. No, not this time. Later, I'm making a movie in 1986. I was the second unit director, and I produced a movie which I wrote the story. Dick Donner was the director. It was called The Goonies. Mm-hmm. And in the film, a kid who loved the James Bond films plays the James Bond theme on a little ghetto blaster he's wearing around his neck, across his chest. But I needed the rights to the Bond theme. And I had given Cubby Broccoli the rights to my 5 notes, so I called Cubby on the phone. I said, I'm making this little picture. There's a really nice homage to James Bond. This kid comes flying in on a bungee cord, and he lands in this room, and he's playing the James Bond theme. And can I get the rights? And Cubby said, no. And I said, Cubby, I gave you free of charge the 5 notes from Close Encounters of Their Kind. He said, the Bond theme is 7 notes. But he eventually finally gave me that. So that was my consolation prize. He would never hire me to do Bond, no matter how successful my career. He would never let me in the front door, but I got the notes for free. Yeah.